everyone. Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for August 31st, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Saturday edition of the podcast. Yes, it is the last day of August. September 1st is tomorrow, which means football is right around the corner. Fantasy football drafts are happening. Today's the official kickoff of, I don't know why they call it week 0 last week for college football, but this is week 1, but the first Saturday of a full slate of games. Count me in. The weather is a little bit crisper outside, and things are looking good. Sign me up for fall. I'm over it. We are also, tomorrow kicks off our 2-year anniversary celebration. Hard to believe it's been 2 years, but I want to celebrate with you. I'm giving away a Philly Goat t-shirt of your choice. All you need to do is, starting tomorrow, send me a text message, leave a voicemail on the Back to the Future voice and text line, and be a subscriber to the YouTube channel, and you will be entered into a random drawing to get a free Philly Goat t-shirt of your choice. They have a wide selection. They got you covered. You guys know I talk about them all the time. I'm wearing my Fly shirt right now, getting ready for Eagle season. But I want to celebrate with you 2 years, just a way to say thank you. You will be able to enter in a random drawing for a free Philly Goat t-shirt. All you need to do is send a text message, leave a voicemail on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531 starting tomorrow throughout the rest of the week, and also be a subscriber to the YouTube channel. I'm looking forward to a fun week as we get ready for the 2-year anniversary on September 8th. Going to have some fun with the number 2 in Philly sports. So looking forward to that. But just a way for me to say thank you for 2 years of loyal support. Also, check me out on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok. At Philly Jimbo on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn. Like and subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a review. Same way with Spotify. All of those things help out the algorithm and help us grow this thing. I have some good things on the horizon. I haven't got as much chance this weekend as I thought I would to work on some of them, but looking forward to what year 3 brings. But be sure to interact with the Back to the Future voice and text line and subscribe to the YouTube channel to enter to win a free Philly Goat shirt. And you might as well go to Philly Goat and check them out and do some back to school shopping, because you're not going to be able to pick just one shirt. So go check them out and use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order. All right, we're going to get to the Phillies here in a minute, but let's start with the Eagles. And I think we have to have a real talk here, Philly fans. And you know, throughout the 2 years on this podcast, I like to consider myself the voice of the fans and really stick up for us, because I think the narrative is bad, and a lot of times, especially the national media and even national fans, they get lazy and say, oh, well, they booed Santa Claus. But I know that we're very knowledgeable and we know what we want. We have high expectations, and if you're not performing to our expectations, we're going to let you know about it. That's okay. But this whole Jalen Hurts and Jason Kelce thing with picking up the blitz last year, I listened to a lot of the, because I mowed the grass, I listened while I was at the gym yesterday, and so I got a chance to listen to a lot of the talk radio shows yesterday. And we got to have a talk about some things here. And let me preface this by saying, I love Jason Kelce. I think he's a great dude. I want to hang out with him. His relationship with Travis reminds me a lot of the relationship I have with my brother. But he is a human. He also was not an all-time great football player last year. So let me, and I'll get into it in a minute. But this whole thing, there's a lot of folks that were saying Jalen was passing the buck and not taking responsibility, throwing Jason under the bus, and lots of people calling in, sticking up for Jason, and that's where I have the issue. And first, there's plenty of blame to go around everywhere in that NovaCare Center from last year. But just because Jason Kelce is going to be a Hall of Famer, just because he's a great dude and really embodied what we are as Philly fans, he was not perfect. And it's okay to criticize guys sometimes. I saw this all the time, and even to this day with Chase Utley. Certain people, Philly, you don't necessarily you fairly criticize them. And I'm not going to sit here all high and mighty on my mountain and say I am perfect. I sometimes had some blinders on with the whole Donovan McNabb era. I'm willing to admit that. I still, to this day, have that. But I think sometimes we need to take a step back and look at things objectively. And we need to be better. We claim we're the most knowledgeable, passionate fan base, but to say that Jason Kelce did not deserve any of that blame the way I heard on the radio yesterday, and I know that's just a small sample size of Philly fans, but there was quite a few people that were putting this all on Jalen. And I'm like, wait a minute. So the story is, as I kind of dove into it more yesterday, obviously Jalen was asked on Thursday on the morning show about something about picking up the blitz this year, and he went into last year and basically said he wasn't allowed to because it was Jason Kelce's job. And there was a lot of folks that said, Jalen's passing the blame. Jalen's not trying to take responsibility for what happened last year. And I'm not really sure that's the case. Because as I said, there's a reason why he wasn't allowed to do that. I don't know if it's the fact they didn't feel confident in him doing it. I don't know if it's they didn't want him. I don't know. And this is quite a thing is a thing that quite possibly could be true. Maybe Jason Kelce didn't want to give up that calling. We don't know the whole backstory there. Either way, I think there's plenty of blame to go around. And at this point, I'm sick of hearing about last year. We're less than a week away from the start of this season. Let's focus on this season and stop bringing up the old shit that happened last year. Because quite frankly, it does not matter. Doesn't matter at all. Plenty of blame to go around because nobody knew how to pick up the blitz. The coaches, Jalen, Jason, anybody else on that offensive line. There's a reason why Jalen Hurts called Wink Martindale. And I think that's a missing piece sort of that nobody's going. Either way, let's turn the page and move on. Whether or not Jalen isn't taking responsibility for last year or whatever, at this point, who cares? Turn the page. Fact of the matter is, he flat out is saying it's on him this year. So he is taking the responsibility for it. I think this is a non-story. But the thing that really, I think we need to be better at being objective to everyone. Because we have no problem giving it to Joel Embiid. We have no problem giving it to Jalen Hurts. But Jason Kelce sort of was like in an untouchable stage yesterday. And I was uncomfortable with it because I saw the same thing with Chase Utley. For the most part, it's starting to turn a little bit now, more recently with the Phillies, sort of what they did over the summer. But Bryce Harper falls into that, and we can't pick and choose. Yes, they do great things. Yes, they're great guys. But we need to be fair when we do that. And to be honest, I did not like that. I think we're better than that, and we need to be better. I promise to do a better job. You need to do a better job too. And let's just be better together. But bottom line, my takeaway from the whole situation is nobody knew what the hell to do about stopping the blitz. And if it's almost like the more they tried, the worse it got. But let's move on. That was 2023. This is 2024. Move on. Let's focus on the Packers. Starting tomorrow, we'll start getting ready to get into some game day stuff, which I'm excited about. But just wanted to get that out there and get that off my chest here on a Saturday. They did announce their jersey combos for the Brazil game. And I have to say, I actually really like them. And who knows what's going on down there with the whole ban on green. I've heard conflicting reports, whether it's safe for players, the health risk. It's going to be a shit show. But this uniform combination with the black helmet, the white jersey, and the black pants, I love it. And I don't think I'm in the minority on this one, but I would be okay if they kind of switched to the black helmets instead of the green ones more often, because I don't know what it is about a black helmet, but the way it just looks, especially with the white jersey, I love. Like I'm a big fan. Maybe wear the green one with the green jerseys, but that black helmet with the white jersey and the black pants. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I really like it. So at the end of the day, worst case, they're going to look good on the field in Brazil. We'll have more on the Eagles later. Phillies, I admittedly did not watch any of this game. I was at the James Taylor concert. I was trying to follow along on my phone, and it just seems like it's one of those games. Sometimes they happen. I feel better about the fact the Phillies won the first game. I feel better about the fact they did get some hits, and most of the Braves' runs were scored on home runs. So we got 2 games left. Need to win at least one of these next 2 games. Ranger was cruising to start and then got into some trouble with Arcia. But this is one of those games. You move on. You come to the next day. Apparently, Bryce has some inflammation and soreness in his arm. He said it's not a ligament, which is good, but didn't really want to make excuses about it, which I respect. But if he's hurt, maybe he does need to sit down, and this is where it comes in. We need to be fair about this. If he's hurt and he can't do some things, maybe it's time to sit down for a few days after this weekend or whatever. So something to just kind of keep an eye on. Phils are tied with the Brewers for the 2 spot. They do have the tiebreaker over them, and they're 2 games back of the Dodgers and 5 games up on the Braves. Let's win today and then go into a relatively stress-free day tomorrow. But Zack Wheeler on the mound today versus Max Fried should be another good game, and I'm looking forward to it. Be sure to check out my boys at the Clashing Conferences podcast. The OGs came out with their first episode for football yesterday on the NFC East, and then I was a guest this week for the baseball. All of that is available wherever you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube. Had a good time with those guys. They're doing great things, so be sure to support them wherever you get your podcasts, and as well as on YouTube. Temple did not cover the 42. Again, I didn't watch much of it, but at some point I saw it was 34-0 at halftime. 51-3 they lost. We expected the loss, though. I mean, it's Oklahoma. It's okay. I still feel good about the plus money bet on the over 2.5 wins for the season, but they look to bounce back next week. And then the Union take on the Red Bulls up in New York tonight. They're looking forward to, or not looking forward to, but they're looking to get themselves back into the playoff positioning. Every game at this point matters for them, but we'll have more on their game tomorrow. And then I did want to mention this because it is Labor Day weekend. It was a big story around here, and it's hockey, but not quite Flyers related. Sad news as Blue Jackets player and South Jersey native Johnny Gaudreau and his brother unfortunately were killed the other night. The story came out after I had already recorded it for yesterday, by a drunk driver while riding their bike down at the shore. And just, it's a sad story. I mean, good, by all accounts, was a good dude, very big in the hockey community here. Just in town for his sister's wedding. Died the day before his sister's wedding because of a drunk driver. And look, I do dumb things sometimes too, but when it comes to that, especially on a holiday weekend, don't be an idiot. Call an Uber, walk, get somebody to pick you up. There's so many options out there. Just don't be an idiot. It's just dumb, and it's not worth it in any case. And it's just a sad, sad story. And that's one of those things. Just be smart and don't be an idiot, especially on a holiday weekend. I'm not saying don't go out and have fun. Just don't be an idiot. But sad news, Johnny Gaudreau from the Columbus Blue Jackets and a South Jersey native and his brother were killed by a drunk driver the other night. And it's just sad. And I mean, the story itself is sad, but the fact that it was a drunk driver just really it's irritating. Very, very irritating. So just be smart and make a good decision, and don't be an idiot. I say it all the time, but just don't be an idiot. All right. Let's reset here and let's move on. It's going to be Eagles the rest of the way here. Going to go back to 1997, and on this day in 1997, the Giants beat the Eagles up at Giants Stadium, the old Meadowlands, 31-17 in a rare August, or actually not rare, the only time the NFL season has started in August. And due to a calendar quirk, Labor Day was on September 1st. It doesn't happen often, but it will happen again next year, ironically enough. But the NFL used to start pre-Labor Day after they expanded the schedule to 16 games back in 1978. And it stayed that way until 2002. Because of 9/11, they pushed the Super Bowl back into February. Everybody kind of liked it, so they adjusted the schedule there. So the Eagles opened up the season on August 31st back in 1997 with a 31-17 loss to the Giants. They were coming off a 10-6 season where they lost that wild card game in the slop out in San Francisco. Actually had pretty high expectations for this team. Ray Rhodes was the coach. They came in as 3-point favorites. The Giants were a young team with, I think Tiki Barber was his rookie year. Dave Brown was the quarterback. But it wasn't a smooth training camp. Ray Rhodes created a quarterback controversy between Ty Detmer and Rodney Peete. Pete was the starter, then he named Detmer the starter, and then Detmer started this game, was yanked after halftime or early in the third quarter after going 9 for 25 for 103 yards. Rodney Peete came in, turned the ball over a lot, but got the Eagles to within a touchdown, was driving them, I vividly remember this, driving them in to hit the go-ahead or a tying score and hit through a 95-yard pick six to the Giants, ending the game. And that whole season was just all about a quarterback controversy. Ricky Waters had 81 yards and a touchdown in this game. This was his final season with the Eagles. And this was, if you remember, this was the Bobby Hoying year. It was back and forth between Ty Detmer and Rodney Peete. And then finally, they were so bad, he put in Bobby Hoying, who threw 11 touchdowns in 7 games to end the season. Got us all hyped up for the 1998 season. Unfortunately, after this 1997 season, Bobby Hoying never threw another touchdown in the NFL. So there you go. But on this day, back in 1997, the Eagles opened the season with a 31-17 loss to the Giants. This was sort of the beginning of the end of the Ray Rhodes era, which we know led to Andy Reid and Donovan and one of the greater runs in Eagles history. All right, and finally today, we are going to finish up with our 20 questions in 20 days about the Eagles. First, a recap of yesterday's question. I asked you, will the ghost of 2023 haunt this Eagles team this year? Surprisingly, this doesn't happen often. 100% of the votes that came in said no, the ghost of last year will not haunt them. I don't necessarily have the same convictions, but hey, if that's what you guys think, that's fine with me. But thank you as always for participating in the question of the day. There will be another question later in the show. So today we went through, I gave you sort of my take on a lot of the positions, asked a lot of the questions that have been on my mind. And since this is the last one, we are going to go and just give the prediction. So in the NFC East, I think they really should not have any problems with winning the division. I think the Giants are terrible. I think the Washington's going to be better. They have a young team, but I don't think they're ready for prime time yet. I do think, and it's amazing because of not having Daniel Snyder as the owner, just how different that team is going to look. But we'll see. I think later in the season they could pose a problem. I just really think that the Cowboys are just a dumpster fire waiting to ignite. There's just no way that I can see them really like I don't know. I just I don't think it's nothing about this team, the way the offseason has gone, tells me that I'm scared. I mean, you have Dak Prescott, who is fighting for a contract. They gave CeeDee Lamb the money. Great. But they have one that have like the best backfield in 2019 with Dalvin Cook and Ezekiel Elliott. There's a lot going on with this team, and I think, like I said, they're a dumpster fire waiting to be ignited. I think the Giants already are a dumpster fire. I do not believe in Daniel Jones at all. So I think, plus nobody wins the division 2 years in a row. Giants certainly are not going to win the division. Washington, depending on how the Eagles do, could sneak in there, but I don't think they're ready for prime time yet. They're about a year or two away. So I feel confident in saying the Eagles will win the NFC East. But I feel a lot is going to be determined on these first 4 games. Green Bay, Atlanta, the Saints, and the Buccaneers, all leading into the bye, which they have an early bye week, which with the changes, I don't know. People are like, oh, that's a terrible play. I would have loved to have had the bye later, but everybody's like, it's terrible. I think with the changes, and it gives them that time to make adjustments if they need to, because then you'll have Sidney Brown coming off the PUP list. Lots of positives about having an early bye like that, especially for this team. Ideally, you'd want it later in the season, but I think with the way things are going, because that 4-game stretch, I mean, essentially you got 3 road games, and that's tough. I mean, they very easily could come out of that 0-2, 1-3. Like, it's not... It's a tough way to start the season. It's not necessarily the gauntlet that they had last year, but I'm nervous about these first 4 games. And I think they have recovered from them before, especially under Andy Reid. But can this team, with the ghost of 2023 past lurking there, I don't know. So a lot's going to be, if they can come out of those first 4 games 2-2, I know a lot of people aren't going to be happy, but I'm going to take that going into the bye, giving them the extra week to kind of adjust, see what happened, because Atlanta and Tampa Bay and Green Bay are all 3 good teams. The Saints could be one of those, who knows. The Eagles should win that game, but I mean, that's a tough first 4-game stretch that's going to do a lot, I think, in determining the win total for this team. So all things considered, though, I feel that this team is probably a 10 or 11 win team. Obviously, depending on the start, the ceiling could be 13. I think the floor for this team is 9. They're at worst a 9-8 team based on the schedule. I think they go 4-2 in the division. I think they lose one to Dallas, which they always do. I think Washington gets them this year, and I think they beat the Giants both times. As far as playoff prospects, the NFC is wide open. Detroit could be good. We'll have to see. The Rams are a team on the rise. The Niners should be good again, but you have the whole Super Bowl hangover. There's going to be a team that sneaks up out of nowhere. Is that the Bears? Is it the Seahawks? Probably the Green Bay Packers. I'm not necessarily convinced on them as high as everybody else is. I mean, you're basing everything on Jordan Love off of a 6-game stretch, basically. And then he played well in the playoffs against the Cowboys, but it's the Cowboys in the playoffs. So I'm not as high on Jordan Love. I'm not saying he's terrible. I'm just not as high on him as everyone else is. So Green Bay's certainly in the mix, but the Eagles should be in the mix. If the defense comes together the way I think it will, and as we've gone through the questions, I told you about Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and how a lot is going to be dependent upon them. I think they could make a run. So my pick for them this year, they're going to win the division. I think they go 11-6. I think they get off to a slow start, though. They're going to be hot down the stretch to get to 11-6. I think they win a playoff game, maybe 2. I'm not ready to put them in the Super Bowl this year. I hate to be that way, and you guys know usually I'm like, Super Bowl! I don't see this team going to the Super Bowl this year. I do see them taking a step forward, though. I think Jalen has a coming out year and really solidifies himself as a top 10, possibly borderline top 5 quarterback. I think the defense makes great strides. The young Bulldogs really come into their own. I think Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean kind of let Slay know we're ready to take over and pass the torch. And I think this is a team that should be ready to compete for a Super Bowl legitimately in 2025. I think there's going to be some growing pains this year. But like I said, 11-6, win the division. I think they can win a playoff game, possibly two. I just don't see them getting to the Super Bowl this year. So let me know your prediction. 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. Be sure to let me know. Like I said, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it is a Super Bowl team. I just don't see it this year. I do think Nick Sirianni keeps his job, and I think this team will be ready to compete in 2025. But let me know your thoughts on the Back to the Future voice and text line. It's be a good thing if you want to call in tomorrow, give your season predictions. Be a great way to qualify for that free Philly Goat shirt. But the question of the day, DraftKings, as of this morning, had the Eagles win total at over under 10.5. Where are you at? Are you over under 10.5? Get that answer in on the voice and text line. Let me know your predictions for the season. Want to vent about the Phillies. All of that is fair game. 267-495-8531. That'll get you in on the Back to the Future voice and text line. Let me know your thoughts on the Eagles. On this day back in 1997, the Eagles opened the season with a 31-17 loss to the Giants, despite a quarterback controversy that played out all season between Ty Detmer, Rodney Peete, eventually after Thanksgiving giving way to Bobby Hoyt, who gave us hope but never threw another touchdown pass after that 97 season. Phils looked to take Game 3 of this series against the Braves. It wasn't going to be easy, so I hope people weren't like, oh, they should have swept them. But vent about that. We got Zack Wheeler on the mound, feeling good. Don't be an idiot. Be safe out there. Please be safe and don't drink and drive. Don't be stupid. All right, just don't. And we'll kick off anniversary week tomorrow. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for August 31st, 2024. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Saturday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.